actually, no, shut up.
No.
Can you shut your mouth for a minute?
No.
Because I actually work in the ghetto. I see the people.
Do you know why they're in that position?
I see these people.
Do you understand the systematic and historical reason for why they're in that position?
They don't care. All they want to do is be ghetto.
No.
Yes, there's some that don't, and there's good people.
No.
Most of them just want to suck off the system or do something bad like drugs or gangs. And that's all they do.
They have been oppressed. They have not been given the same opportunities you have had.
Yes, they do, and there's plenty of black people.
No, they don't, Dad.
There's plenty of
And you not recognizing that as an issue is the reason why it's still continuing today.
I see them all over. There's all kinds of successful people that are of color. It doesn't matter what color, brown, white.
But it's a lot harder for them to get to that position.
It doesn't matter. When they do, they're fine. But there's always filthy animals. And
You're calling people of color black animals. You're calling them animals.
I'm talking.
Are you kidding me?
You didn't let me finish.
That's not okay. No matter what, that's not okay. No matter what, it's not okay. Racism is not okay. Why do you think that racism is okay?
I found this.
All right, that's mine.
Haley, I'm gonna look at. No, I'm looking at statistics
That's my
right
medal. I
now.
gotta get a necklace.
Your statistics they can be warped. Statistics can be warped. You want me to show you videos?
Why are
Do you want me to show you videos of cops?
Why
will do
why
it.
is statistics wrong?
Because they can be warped. I'm not giving statistics right now. They can be warped. Personal experiences can't.
No, because this is actually putting it into play. When you
Do I need to show you a bunch of videos of cops attacking protesters, peaceful protesters?
just listen to this. This is the number.
You mean I'm informed and educated?
You're not though.
Yes, I am.
You're one-sided informed.
Yes.
Mom, I was watching political stuff and you said to turn that off because you don't want to hear about it. That means that I am educated on it and you are not.
I'm sick of hearing it.
The fact that you can have that ignorance for the majority is bliss.
Okay.
Ignorance for the minority
So I'm
is
looking at statistics
destruction.
that are wrong. This is just pure wrong information out there.
Just give me the statistic.
In 2017, 457 white people were shot to death by the police in the United States.
Okay.
223 were black.
76% of the population is white. 13% is black.
I get that.
If they were being killed at the exact same rate by police officers, the rate of black people being killed would be 8.9. But it's not. It's 24%. The rate of white people being killed should be about where it is. So they're being killed at a higher rate. There is more white people, meaning that the amount of people killed by cops who are white would be higher.
The reaction of the person. I'm not saying
Because they're tired. They're tired of being treated that way.
I'm not saying it's right.
Good.
But if they started teaching them that this is the world that we live in, you don't want to be killed. Why do you think your friend's father taught him that?
So that his black son doesn't end up dead like Tamir Rice.
Because he doesn't want him to grow up with a chip on his shoulder that
He doesn't want his black son to end up dead.
Exactly.
That's not okay. Why do you think that's okay?
Because
why is this something that you're okay with? Why is that a reality that you're okay with?
I'm okay with it.
But you are.
No, I'm not.
So stand against it. So stand against it. If you're not okay with it, so stand against
when I'll
it.
stand against it? When the black people in the ghetto stop carrying an illegal weapon. When the black people in the ghetto stop murdering each other.
I'll start caring about cops when they stop killing black people.
I'll start caring about black people when they stop killing cops.
And all of us have more work to do.
The dream of equal rights for all Americans, whatever their race or color.
I hope that every American, regardless of where he lives, will stop and examine his conscience.
The Supreme Court of the United States has decided that separate public educational facilities for the races are inherently unequal and therefore are unconstitutional. Mob rule can not be allowed to override the decisions of our courts.
And this nation, for all its hopes and all its boasts, will not be fully free until all its citizens are free.
My fellow citizens, we have come now to a time of testing. We must not fail.
Violence against innocents violate the fundamental tenets of the Islamic faith. And it's important for my fellow Americans to understand that.
After my election, there was talk of a post-racial America. And such a vision, however well intended, was never realistic. Race remains a potent and often divisive force in our society.
It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal.
We are all created equal.
That all men are created equal. Yet many are denied equal treatment.
And that the rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened.
Justice grows out of recognition of ourselves in each other. That my liberty depends on you being free too.
The time has come for Americans of all races and creeds and political beliefs to understand and to respect one another.
For too long we've been blind to the way past injustices continue to shape the present.
But are we to say to the world, and much more importantly, to each other, that this is a land of the free, except for the Negroes? That we have no second-class citizens, except Negroes? That we have no class or caste system, no ghettos, no master race, except with respect to Negroes?
Racism persists. Inequality persists.
Let us close the springs of racial poison. Let us pray for wise and understanding hearts. Let us turn away from those who pour venom into our nation's bloodstream.
Those who feel like they can intimidate our fellow citizens to take out their anger don't represent the best of America. They represent the worst of humankind.
That history can't be a sword to justify injustice or a shield against progress, but must be a manual for how to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past, how to break the cycle, a roadway toward a better world.
So let us put an end to the teaching and the preaching of hate and evil and violence. It would be difficult to exaggerate the harm that is being done to the prestige and influence, and indeed to the safety of our nation and the world.
We allowed ourselves to slip into a comfortable silence again. Right. Once the eulogies have been delivered, once the TV cameras move on, to go back to business as usual. Right. That's what we so often do. To avoid uncomfortable truths about the prejudice that still infects our society.
It ought to be possible, in short, for every American to enjoy the privileges of being American without regard to his race or his color.
Let us lay aside irrelevant differences and make our nation whole.
For white Americans, it means acknowledging that the effects of slavery and Jim Crow didn't suddenly vanish in the 60s. That when minority groups voice discontent, they're not just engaging in reverse racism or practicing political correctness. When they wage peaceful protest, they're not demanding special treatment, but the equal treatment that our founders promised. In 1999, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. And when I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, I raised my right hand and I swore an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And so as we sit here debating statues, we all need to keep in mind that these statues represent the domestic enemies that I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution from. Now we can paint them in any light we want and say that we should make up our minds about what they meant. But in reality, they were traitorous insurrectionists who sought to subjugate an entire race of people because of the color of their skin. And they felt so strongly that they should be allowed to own another human being that they were willing to throw the Constitution of the United States out of the window and join a movement to literally kill their fellow United States citizens to preserve that right. Now, we don't keep statues to those who have made an enemy of the United States. While the Confederates may have been given a pardon, while the Confederates may have been told that their actions would not be held against them, no one made a promise to any Confederate that we would celebrate them in 2017. And we certainly made no promises to put their statues prominently on a historically relevant park where men and women of color were sold and bought like items. Council members, as you consider what to do with these statues, I want you to carefully consider where the proper place for things that celebrate those who rose up against the United States government so that they could maintain the power to own their fellow man.
Is more than your stance on abortion and same-sex marriage. Followers of Jesus Christ must understand that every person who walks this earth possesses the image of God. For this reason, racism, sexism, and homophobia are an assault on that very image of God. Now we have a president who makes this degradation of the image of God routine. And yet, this did not start with him. Trump is not the cause of all this. He is the consequence. Our country is embracing its very worst demons, showing how far and deep they really go. There is a better America, a better future, but this future involves choices, moral choices none of us can avoid. Christians who say they're not political will still make a choice when November 2020 rolls around. This can be a choice of silence, which works as affirmation of the status quo. It can be a direct vote for an anti-truth, anti-immigrant, white nationalist administration. Or it can be a vote against those systems and prejudices, a choice proclaiming that the image of God still has value. I am going to use a word that is controversial and may even sound irreverent, but it must be said. When your policies and your words are antithetical to everything that Jesus said and did, those policies are anti-Christ. The white nationalism in America is not just racism, it's anti-Christ. The dehumanization of immigrants is not just a lack of compassion, it is anti-Christ. The mistreatment of women through sexual harassment, abuse, and assault isn't just sexist, it's anti-Christ. And for churches not to name and say that clearly and boldly is evidence of their losing connection with Jesus Christ and his teachings. When you listen to some white evangelicals praise Trump, watch for how little they talk about Jesus and his plan of radical discipleship. We forget the complexity of his message. Jesus was a deeply radical figure. He proclaimed a vision of love and a new analysis of power that turned the world on its head. This brown-skinned Jewish rabbi had quite a lot to say about politics, or at least how we should apply our moral values to public life. Today, Jesus would have been the one celebrating the Black Lives Matter movement, shoulder to shoulder with his neighbors, especially those who are immigrants or refugees. Jesus would furiously defend our warming planet, regardless of whether that activism was popular. Jesus would stop at nothing to combat the inhumane treatment of families at the border. It's time to reintroduce this Jesus to our American churches. Too many churches, primarily white churches in our nation, excuse their silence by claiming they aren't political, that they don't have to weigh in on the extraordinary injustice we see all around us. Do you know what I have to say to that? Enough. I do believe in the separation of church and state, but not the separation of values from our public life.
Get the f*** out of my country!
To all you Arabs and Democrats, but you go back where you came from.
Jesus is remembered for asking very powerful questions like, who is my neighbor and what is truth? Often directly to politicians. The religious right has forgotten the heart of Jesus' message and its focus on two specific issues. Let me be clear, to be a Christian is more than your stance on abortion and same-sex marriage.
Stay in the closet. Make sure your closet is in another closet.
To be a Christian is to fiercely defend your neighbor, including especially those who couldn't be more different than yourself. To be a Christian is to stand against white nationalism and the anti-Christ policies coming from the White House. There is no dancing around that fact. To defend the image of God in all circumstances is every Christian's calling. LGBTQ are all initials that stand for people who are beloved by God. All human life, whether at the border or in the womb, has dignity. Furthermore, women who have abortions are beloved by God. We have to go deeper in our thinking about how we protect the vulnerable. There are 2,000 verses in the Bible about the poor. 2,000. Jesus tells us that the most important people are the ones he called the least of these, even while they are the least important ones in our politics today. Doesn't the church want to be remembered for its unconditional love for all people? How do we find our way forward together? Elections are very important, but winning an election isn't enough. It's time to not just go left or right, but go deeper. Allowing our faith and our values to determine our politics, rather than the other way around, is a great place to start.